Oh, okay. Can you hear us online?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, so welcome everyone to the Rump session. Welcome everyone to the Rump session of this year's FSE 2022. So before we start, I would just like to explain the basic rules of this session. So previously, until yesterday evening, authors were allowed to submit talks of 1 up to 5 minutes in length. So there are a few special talks like a report of the program chairs, which could be longer. And the authors could submit talks in 4 categories: announcement, like announcement of new conferences, humor, actual research, or they could just say, I just want to win a prize. And remote presentations were actually allowed. And we got a few remote submissions. The most important rule is that we want to honor our hosts. And we're doing this by allowing only Greek letters when in math mode. Yeah, so you could not write AES of X, of course. What you have to do is you write alpha delta epsilon of chi. Oh. What? Sigma, yeah, sorry.
It's about writing, not saying.
Yes. But you could also use delta, yeah? It's not forbidden, just harder. So except Omicron and Delta, yeah, for obvious reasons you should avoid. And authors who failed to follow this basic rule will face terrible consequences, just like the ones foolish enough to not respect the time limit.
For these terrible consequences, well, you will see, because some of the authors were actually foolish enough not to respect the Greek rule. So you see what happens to them. And one of the things that could happen is that they are downgraded in the list to be awarded one of our amazing prizes that we're planning to give at the end of this Rump session. So the prizes will be the Aristophanes Prize, which will be given to the funniest talk, Aristophanes being the writer of some comedies like in Parthenon times. The Electra Prize, which will be given to the most tragic performance. So we don't want people to talk about sad stuff, but we want them to talk about it in a very tragic and impressive and epic way, which is named after Electra, the character in the Greek tragedy. And the Odysseus Prize, which will be given to the talk with the most expertly shoehorned mythological references, named, of course, after Odysseus, the inventor of the Trojan horse, which was the inspiration from my actual talk earlier today. However, as you will see in the next slide, there was a slight conflict of interest between some of the chairs, and by which I mean me, and the talks themselves. So instead of deciding ourselves, we have decided to ask the organizers of the event, which is co-located with this Rump session, this FSE thing. And they have kindly agreed to be this council of the wise ones, because we trust their wisdom from what we could see so far. So Christina, Itai, and Bart the Young will be those who decide who gets the prizes. As for the prizes, it's going to be Pythagoras cups. So the best ranked speakers will get to choose exactly which one they get, because we have slight variations. But now you might wonder, what is a Pythagoras cup? Because obviously it's not just like a cup. It has to have some special functionality. And the way they work is illustrated by this picture, which I obviously did not do myself and just took from Wikipedia. If you fill it too much, it completely empties itself. So we thought it was a fitting symbol that once they have the winners have reached the apex of their career as being awarded a prize at the Rump session, that they do not become too greedy, and that if they bask too much in the glory of this event, they might lose everything. Like a memento mori, it's Mediterranean, but the wrong type, so we went with this one instead. And now some statistics.
Yes, so we received 12 submissions, and we are glad to say that we have an acceptance rate of 100%. So we will see 12 talks, and 2 of them are online and 10 of them are given in place. So several authors chose multiple topics, yeah? So does not add up to 12. But actually, announcement and research are the most talks. But some want just to chase a prize. So let's see if they will actually get the prize in the end. And the average length of the talk is 5 minutes. So there were some talks that are longer, yeah, as I said before. Yeah, so enjoy.
And so we're recording on stage.
Please make sure if you're the next talk in the session to already come up on stage and wait there so we do not have a lot of delay.
Okay, thank you very much. So as on behalf of the program chairs, I would like to tell you a bit on how the papers for this conference, FSE, were selected. Apparently, it's not a completely random process. So I assume that most of you know that since 2016, FSE operates in a hybrid journal conference model. And basically, the journal is called TOSC. It's an open access journal. It is published by Bochum University. And it is indexed by several important databases, and it's selected for inclusion in the web of science. So the review cycle is rather rapid. So we have 4 issues per year, which basically means we have a deadline every 3 months. And the decision is given after 2 months. And decision types are journal style. So we have basically the standard accept and reject, but also we have revisions. And this allows us to actually improve the quality of the papers during the review process. And we also welcome SOK papers, addendum, and errata papers. Okay, so this basically gives you the original plan for FSE. So in 2021, we were supposed to have FSE, but yeah, so it was supposed in this FSE, we were supposed to present task issues 2020.2, 3, and 4, and task 2021 issue 1. Unfortunately, due to COVID, so FSE 2021 did not happen, and the first 2 issues that were supposed to be presented at 2021 actually were presented the year before at FSE 2020, which took place online. And the final 2 issues that were supposed to be presented at FSE 2021 are actually presented at this conference, FSE 2022. So altogether, we have 6 task issues that are presented. So we have 57 papers from these issues. And besides these standard so-called papers that are presented, we have, in addition, 2 invited talks. So Or gave his talk yesterday, and Christian will give his invited talk tomorrow. And of course, we also have the Rump Session, and we would like to thank Christoph and Leo for taking the responsibility and the duty of organizing this Rump Session. Okay, so this chart shows you the statistics about the submission and decision statistics for TOSC. So you can see on the right with the start, the start rectangles basically show you the TOSC issues that are presented at this conference. And one thing that is rather notable is that, well, in the issue right before the conference, which is 22.1, and this goes back, we usually have a larger amount of submissions. So altogether, counting these 6 issues, we had 213 regular submissions. Out of those, 27% were accepted, which is indeed 57 papers. And well, let's see some interesting statistic about those issues. So as I previously mentioned, we can make revision decision for papers that we think require a revision before accepting them for publication. So apparently most papers that were given a major revision decision are actually resubmitted, and most of them are accepted at the end. And this should be contrasted with papers that are given a reject and resubmit decision. And this decision is basically given to papers which show some potential, but require too much work to be given a major revision decision. So actually, out of those, only 1/3 are resubmitted to TOSC. And as I said earlier, we encourage submissions of SOK, addendum, and errata papers, but actually we don't have many of these. And specifically, we did not receive any SOK paper in the last 4 issues of TOSC. Okay, so all these issues and all these submissions, they require hard work for reviewing and improving the quality of the submissions through revisions and of course selecting those that will appear at TOSC. And for this we have a program committee, and for this FSE we would like to actually thank 2 program committees because there are 6 TOSC issues involved. So the program committee of TOSC 2020 and the program committee of TOSC 2021. And of course, we would like to thank them for their very hard effort and the review process. In addition, we would like to thank the managing editor, Gregor Leander, and basically the technical support team, which consists of Frederick, Phil, Christoph, and Linda. In addition, we would like to thank the Kevin McCurley, who is responsible for the submission system, basically HotWrap. And of course, we would like to thank the General Chair, Christina Bura, for organizing this very nice conference and quite challenging conditions. And we would like to thank Kevin McCurley and Kay McKelly for basically organizing the virtual part of this conference. It's kind of difficult to thank them enough. They are doing an amazing job. So thank you very much. And of course, we would like to thank the FSE steering committee as well. So finally, we would like to give out the formal Best Paper Award plaques. And for the first time I think in 3 years, we will be able to give them away physically. So actually, we will have three awards, and the first 2 were selected from TOSC 2020 issues 2, 3, 4, and TOSC 2021 issue 1, and the third award was selected from TOSC 2021 issues 2, 3, 4, and TOSC 2022 issue 1. Okay, so I'll invite first maybe the program chairs to, if you want, yeah, you can come and give the award with me. So the first award goes to a paper by Stéphanie Delorme, Patrick Derbez, and Matthew Vavril for their paper Catching the Fastest Boomerangs, Applications to Skinning. So I think at least Patrick is here. So Congratulations, Patrick.
Thank you very much.
I guess, I mean, the plaque is physical, but the handshake is still virtual. But if you want to say something, you can.
Okay. It was about time. I'm doing research since 10 years almost, and this is my first best paper award, so thank you.
So the second Best Paper Award is given to a paper titled Cryptanalysis of Low MC Instances using a single plaintext ciphertext pair. The paper is by Subhadip Banik, Kashay Arbaruti, F. Betul Durac, and Serge Vaudonnet. I think at least Subhadip is here, and maybe some other authors. Yeah, Serge is here, yes.
Three of them.
Thanks a lot.
Congratulations.
Want to say something?
No. No one wants to speak.
Say something.
Okay, so thank you.
Okay, and the third Best Paper Award is from the newest issue. It's a paper by Fukang Liu, Takanori Isobe, Willy Meyer, and Kosei Sakamoto. Wikis in round-reduced aegis and dioxin. Yeah, and Willy is here. He's the only one, unfortunately, that was able to attend. Congratulations.
So I would like to thank the committee and the PC chairs, and of course my co-authors who did all this hard work to produce this paper.
Okay, and that's it. That concludes the program chair report.
Next, we will have an online talk on the announcement of FSE 2023. So, Bin, can you please share the screen?
Yes. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is the FSE 2023 announcement. The next episode will be hosted by us in Beijing next year, and we follow the traditional of FSE. We have designed the conference logo for the next year's FSE together with the IACR logo. The important information for the next conference is that the FSE will be scheduled to host the 20th of March to 24th of March next year. And the program chairs are Christina Bura, the general chair of this year, FSE, and Bud Banik. And the general co-chairs are Mei Qin Wang from Shandong University, and I, Bin Zhang, from Chinese Academic Sciences. And we plan to make the website online soon after this FSE. Let me introduce a bit about the city of Beijing. Beijing is the capital of China. It has a convenient location in the East Asia, and it has been the international metropolis for several centuries. Beijing has the model infrastructure for almost everywhere, and Beijing has hosted the various international venues, such as the 2008 Summer Olympic Games and this year's Winter Olympic Games. And we have booked meeting facilities in the very heart of the city, and there are various accommodations options around the meeting place. Beijing is also the World Heritage City. It is the Chinese Historical Center, and it is also the cultural capital of East Asia. Beijing has the easy transportation to many well-known resorts. Here, the Forbidden City, the Temple of Heaven, and the National Stadium, the Summer Palace. And Beijing is also has a lot of delicious food. So it is culinary heaven. And the conference venue is at the Beijing International Commercial Center. This is the same venue as Asia Crypt 2012. There we have a plenary room for 200 or 300 participants, and it is located in the city center with magnificent views. It has excellent facilities for coffee breaks and lunches. And we will offer free conference reception. The welcome reception will be held in the silent chamber of the BICC, and afterwards a drink is offered in the silence of the BICC. I think it is a good opportunity to taste the Beijing city beer, Yanjing beer here. I promise this is very good. And the conference banquet will be held in the Beihai Park. This is the traditional royal restaurant, and they will give you the unique experience in Beijing. And there are around 300 places capacity. So I hope the pandemic will be over soon and we can meet together again. So I welcome all the symmetric cryptographers to come to Beijing for next FSE. Thank you, that's all.
So the next talk will be given by Jan Rotella, and the talk after this will be given by Clémence Bouvier. So Clémence, please stay alarmed already to be ready in time. And Jan will talk about the IA labels of the cryptanalysis.
Hi, sorry, Christophe, to argue, but it's not the IA, but it's Yotta Alpha. I can't do much for you if you don't know the numeral system of ancient Greek. And also, we are not in March. We are the Kappa Gamma of Elapherbolion Beta Kappa Beta, according to the Attic calendar. So first, what you can do, so the goal is 12 challenges that you can do as a cryptanalyst or cryptographer that I think are very, very hard, and you can become very, very famous. So you can break eta rounds of the range dials lion. You can also kill the Hydra and all its heads, because each time there is some cryptanalysis on those constructions, then they can recover and a new arises. But you need not to mine the middle layer, you need to cut in the middle layer using your favorite sword. This is the hardest one. It seems easy, but I have a flag, a French flag, in somewhere in Paris. It's mine, and if we can get it, it's very, very hard. But what will be a crypto contest without a capture the flag challenge? This one is probably the hardest. You need to win a theta sconius race against Bart. Again, if you don't know the metric system of ancient Greek, I can't do much for you. You can also shut down all the birds of Nist. This one is very, very hard also. King Gregor has an invariant inside this skinny S-box, and if you can find it and exhibit, then it's very, very good. There is twins, Kuznicki and Stribog, Leo can attest, and they have a very, very nice S-box. So if you can break the both Kuznicki and Stribog twins, and also it's a very, very nice challenge. And also some practical analysis. We have very, very nice TOSC program chairs, and if you can steal some secret keys inside the laptop of you or Gaetan or the Valley Choice or Itai, will be a very, very great achievement. Also some cryptanalysis against Sozemanuk, a very snake, the very famous pet of Anne, a wise pet of Anne, because it's kind of the queen of many Amazons. And also you can clean up. If you don't know the challenges of Hercules, and you definitely know how this refers to. If you can clean the weakly aligned stuff, then I think I can applaud you. Again, the cube, not an apple, but a golden cube. Up to my knowledge, a cube has a 3 dimensions. So if you can attack a cipher with only a 3-dimensional cube, that will be a very, very great achievement. And finally, bring back the hound with 3 heads, A50, A51, and A52 from L. So the goal now is the last one, and I think it's the hardest one. You have to make A51 secure by just adding 1 logical gate. That's all, thank you.
Okay, the next talk is by Clémence, and the speaker afterwards is Nicolas David, so please stay alarmed already. And Clémence is talking about old alliances back.
So thank you for the introduction. So yeah, I'm going to present a joint work with Leo Perrin and Veselin Palichkov. So I'm sorry, this is not a funny talk. So our work is entitled Old because at the time of conception, Veselin was still part of Scotland, and Leo and me were in France, so we joined forces to design new alternization hash function based on the butterfly structure. Because let me remind you that we are in a context of emerging uses in symmetric cryptography. I mean, new protocols such as zero-knowledge proof have highlighted the need to minimize the number of multiplication performed by the primitive in large Fano fields. And this corresponds to the opposite of what is usually done. I mean, instead of using operation and small field, we use operation on big field F rho, where rho is either a power of 2 or a prime number. So classical algorithms such as AES, for example, are inappropriate in this context, and we need to design new primitives. So what were the goal of our primitives? So first, we wanted to design algorithms that work well across proof system and not only a specific one. We also aim to limit our reliance on pseudo-randomly generated components to ease both implementation and cryptanalysis. And we also wanted 2 types of algorithm. I mean, a classical sponge function, but also a compression function for Merkle tree. And finally, we also wanted very simple principle and simple rank function that could apply for all our algorithms because all is a big family. So I won't have time to go into detail during this session, but let me just introduce the key concept behind whole, namely the CC equivalence. So 2 functions are CC equivalent if there exists an affine permutation such that the graph of a function corresponds to the graph of the other function after applying the affine permutation. So we rely on the CC equivalence of our permutation to a simpler one to have a higher degree evaluation and a low degree verification. Because a function admits an efficient verification if it is CC equivalent to a function of a strictly lower degree. So our design is highly inspired by the butterfly structure and a FSE network, so we have called it FlyCell. So then given a tuple of 2 quadratic functions and a permutation, we have this open FlyCell and this closed FlyCell that are CC equivalent. So let me explain the advantages of this structure. So first, if we look at the open FlyCell, you can see that the outputs are high degree polynomials in the 2 input variable. Then we also, because we have the inverse permutation, and then we also prove that we have a low differential uniformity, and this does not decrease with the size of the field, which is really important in our context. And as I've said, the open FlyCell is CC equivalent to this closed FlyCell. So then we have a low-cost verification because we only use quadratic function and permutation of low degree. And then the evaluation is not too expensive because we evaluate only once the inverse permutation. So then in field of characteristic 2, our S-box is correspond to this 3-round Festal network with the cube and its inverse. And for odd characteristic field, we can use the square as a quadratic function, but the cube is not always a permutation, so we have a marginal S-box. And finally, as I've said, we need 2 types of algorithm. So the first one is a classical sponge function, and the second one is a compression function for Merkle tree. And for that, we have a dedicated mode, I mean, with a linear layer and our FlyCell construction. And then if we have this pair of inputs, we apply all construction and we get this pair of outputs. And what we return is the sum of all those 4 variables here, so that from 2 words, we get only 1 word as outputs. And actually, we could apply also this mode to other schemes like Poseidon. So then as Athena won over Poseidon to become protector of Athens, we hope to do the same and be more efficient than Poseidon. Thank you.
So in this instance, the talk after this one will be online. So please get ready over the internet. Please. And so the next talk will be given by Nicolas David. It's about differential attacks on Speedy.
Yes.
Please.
So differential attacks on Speedy. So let me first introduce you to the protagonist of the day. So it won't be Speedy Gonzalez, but his more elder ancestor here, Speedy Kus, SKA, our Speedy boy. So we can see here his parents. So he's from the paper, The Speedy Family of Block Cipher, and he's from that was introduced in CHESS 2021. So Speedy is a family of low latency SPN block cipher that come in multiple versions. So today we'll be looking at Speedy 592 and Speedy 692. And in both cases, both the internal state and the key are represented by a matrix of 32 lines and 6 rows, and each cell represents a bit. So that makes us a total of 192 bits. So what did we do? So we worked on multiple differential attacks on the construction. We gave a model to efficiently search for the best path. And we performed some optimized key guessing technique. I mean, we used some. So here is a differential trait. So I'll just give like few notes. So it could be split into 3 parts or 4 parts, depending on how you want to look at it. And what really helped us to mount our attack is that we have very efficient transition through the Xbox that goes from 1 bit to 1 bit. I don't know if we can maybe. Okay, I mean, we can see this at the top also, and also at the bottom at different position, and that really help us mount an effective attack. So here are just a few numbers. So we have the differential probability in the middle, and the top part and bottom part actually have pretty good probability thanks to this S-box transition that we can use. So here is a little bit summary on our complexity. So the first table is about designer security claim, and the bottom one is about what we did. So as we can see, we didn't manage to actually fall into inside the designer security claim for Speedy 5, so because of the data. However, if we look at Speedy 6, our attack can actually be like seen as a reduced version of the Speedy 6. Because in this case, both our time and both our complexity will follow the designer security claim. And speaking with designers, they didn't expect attack to exceed 4 rounds, yet we showed a 5-round attack. So yeah, as conclusion, this is the first external attack on Speedy. And we've seen that for the 6th version, there is at most 1 round of security margin, and we are working towards a full round attack both for 5 and 6. And here is, okay, so
he was kind enough to make a video to illustrate his results, but now I need to make it work with Zoom.
Yeah, because.
So we'll stop the sharing and try to start the video, which was in the slide. We click on the.
Okay.
It's on the way. Bear with us. We should have like a slide, you know, in The Simpsons, they have this drunk guy standing by the camera.
Yes,
technical issues. Stand by.
I'm so sad. It's much better.
Well, we will play it at the end of the Rump session. And for those online, we will post the link somewhere.
I'm so sad.
We appreciate your efforts. They might be rewarded. We'll see in the end. That might be the tragedy we were looking for, yes. Okay. This is also a Mac computer, which I'm not good with, because otherwise it would be too easy. Anyway, the next talk will be given online. So please, Rakvendra, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
So yeah, can you share your screen? I stop the sharing here. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. So this is a joint work with Rusty H. Makarim. So for Ascon, the current best known bound for 5-round differential trail is 78 active S boxes. And it starts with 29 active S boxes in round 0 and ends with 30 active S boxes. And this was given by the Ascon designers back in 2015. Since then, there are no efforts to understand whether this bound on active S boxes is tight or not. So we found multiple differential trails with 75 active S boxes of this form. And we also found another differential trails with 72 active S boxes. So basically, we improved the upper bound from 78 to 72. And still, we are not sure whether this bound of 72 active S boxes is tight or not. So now, considering the 4 rounds, again, the best known differential trail is given by the Ascon designers, and it has 44 active S boxes. It starts with 23 active S boxes in round 0 and then ends at 15 active S boxes. And you will see in Friday, FSE, in one of the talk, Erlacher and others, they have proved that for 4 rounds, there are at least 36 active S boxes, but for 36, they could not found whether there is a trail or not. So, and here we have found multiple distinct trails with 44 active S boxes. And also for the first time, we find a differential trail with 43 active S boxes with this configuration. So right now, the bound for 4 round is between 36 and 42. And if you want to close this gap to whether to find this exact number, we only need to check in worst case 2 to the power 14 specific configurations of active S boxes. So I believe this is possible to find the exact gap. Okay, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
We played just before the last fall. No. No. I think it might be easier to just run it. Otherwise, he sends it to the US and then. Yeah, okay, whatever.
Okay, so the next talk will be given by Augustin Barrien, and the talk afterwards by Jules. So please already be alarmed. And Augustin will talk about a tutorial on how to earn theoretical money with practical attacks.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. So I'm going to teach you how to earn theoretical money with practical attacks. I'm Augustin Barrien, and this work is done by Clémence Bouvier, Gaëtan Laurent, Léo Perrin, and myself. To put you into context, the Ethereum Foundation announced a challenge at Eurocrypt 2021 that started in November back then and that finishes in the end of this year. The total money involved in the challenge is 200,000 euros. So if you're tired of the P equal NP problem, just try this. There are 4 hash functions at stake: Festel MIMC, Poseidon, Rescue Prime, and Reinforced Concrete. Actually, the 4 of them are arithmetization oriented, so they try to minimize the number of multiplication for diverse contexts. The versions of the challenge are drastically reduced versions compared to the full ciphers, so the attacks become practicable, some of the attacks. The goal of the challenge for the diverse hash functions are to solve the CICO problem, constraint input, constraint output problem, which is given a permutation pi, find x and y such that pi of x0 equal y0. So we'll see the CICO problem with Festel MIMC. What is Festel MIMC? It's a Festel network with a round function being a constant addition and an S box, which is the cube function. We can model Festel MIMC by setting a variable to each of the inner states and to derive equations from the round function conditions. So we have R+1 equations and R+1 variables. It's a multivariate polynomial system, which we can solve with the Gröbner basis. And in average, the solving time is 3 to the omega r, where omega is the exponent of linear algebra. So basically, it's 2 in theory, 3 in practice. The original challenges on Festel MIMC were these ones. And the second challenge could be attacked in practice using 2 to the power 43 operations. So this was the last practical versions attackable by Gröbner basis. However, we can do better. So instead of considering a multivariate polynomial system, we can have a univariate polynomial system by setting the first wire to x, x0 to x, and y0 to 0. Then we compute the polynomial PR-1, which we want to find a root of. So if we find a root of PR-1, we have a solution of the CICO problem, and PR-1 is of degree 3 to the R-1. So the solving time of this is R times 3 to the R log P, which is way less than solving with Gröbner basis. The hardest challenge of the original challenges now costs only 2 to the 45.5 using univariate solve, compared to the 2 to the 105 in multivariate. So basically, they're all broken. But the challenges were updated after the 3 submissions, our 3 first submissions. So now the easiest challenge is the former hardest challenge. For Poseidon, we used a small trick to gain 2 rounds, and we could attack 3 challenges. So the summary of the situation is this one. Rescue Prime is a bit harder to attack because one of their S-box has a very high degree, so the x to x power 1/3. And so we use Gröbner basis to solve it, and we break the first challenge. So Greg is going to conclude, you prefer univariate solving to multivariate solving. Thank you.
Will be the next talk, and after that, it will be traffic.
Okay.
Next slide.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, dear advisor. So in this presentation, I would like to give you a first taste of a practical cube attack against non-misused Ascon. So this is a part of the work, joint work with Anne Canto and Léo Perrin. So for those who don't know, Ascon is a primitive which was designed by members and former members of the TU Graz team. It is the first choice of the Kaiser competition for lightweight usage, and it is also one of the finalists in the current NIST standardization process. So Ascon is a permutation-based construction, and it uses a duplex sponge mode of operation. And the permutation in Ascon is built as follows. So first of all, you have a constant addition, then an S-box layer, a sigma box layer, in which a unique S-box is applied to each of the columns. And finally, you have a linear layer in which 5 different linear permutations are applied to the 5 different rows. So in the non-misused setting, once the key unknowns are fixed once and for all, you can go through initialization once, and you can study the state on the dotted line here, which looks like this. So you can control the first row, and you need to recover the 4 other rows, alpha, beta, gamma, and phi. So after half a round, after the first S-box layer, the algebraic normal form of a column is this one. And as you can see, the coefficients in front of the variables are different depending on the rows. So in this work, we are first interested in the coefficients of terms of degree 32 after 6 rounds, and they can be expressed as sum of products of former coefficients after the half a round, so after the first S-box layer. But what happens if the first term in this product all come from the first row or the fourth row? Well, in that case, each product will be able to be either divisible, will be divisible either by alpha 0 plus 1 or gamma 0 plus phi 0 plus 1. And in that case, you can express the coefficients like this. And in the event of alpha 0 being equal to 1 and gamma 0 plus phi 0 being equal to 1, then all the coefficients will be able to be nullified at the same time, and you don't expect this kind of behavior otherwise. So thanks to this, we managed to recover some of the bits, and there is 2 other steps in order to recover the remaining bits. So in the end, this is a full state recovery for the full 6-round encryption of Ascon when the nonce is reused. When the nonce is reused a lot, it is practical and it has been implemented. And it does not go against Ascon security claims, but it is a reminder that a nonce is not a constant. Thank you.
Okay, the next talk will be by Patrick Neumann on the question whether we can uniquely decompose.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. So I would like to advertise a paper that will hopefully get published soon. So it's not out yet. And we ask ourselves the question, if given a round function, can you uniquely decompose it into linear and nonlinear layer? Or in other words, if you know a representation of a round function that looks like this, is it really unique, or are you able to find a different representation of this round function? And of course, I already hear you say, well, can't you combine multiple S boxes into one bigger S box, or can't you just look at linear equivalent S boxes, or just change the order of the S boxes? But we don't want to do that. We want to look at uniqueness up to those things. And surprisingly, the answer is basically it depends. So in case you have 2 S boxes, one that has maximal differential uniformity and one that has maximal linearity, then you're actually not able to find one unique decomposition. Thanks.
If you plan to talk for 1 minute, you should ask for 5. Let's say.
Well, I did, didn't I?
You did fit into 5, but that's good. Anyway, Antonio, please. After that, since Beijing spoke is ready to answer, we play Nicolas' video, and then we get Antonio, please. The floor is yours.
Okay. So apologies for the lack of jokes in this talk. So I will try to be as quick as possible and get close to the 3-minute limit. So please bear with me and listen to a bit about linear cryptanalysis, or more specifically about linear key recovery attacks. So in linear key recovery attacks, we have several different approaches. The classical one has time complexity, which depends on the amount of data and the number of bits of key which we guess. We can also use a distillation phase to slightly reduce this time complexity in many cases. And a very popular technique is to use the FFT or the Walsh transform to obtain even lower time complexity. However, this complexity depends on a factor which is not as clearly related to the number of bits of key which we are guessing. This constant is usually is always larger than the amount of bits of key that we guess, but very often it is determined by the construction of the round function. And this is a problem because if we want to reduce the time complexity by using the key schedule or some other dependency within the construction of the cipher, sometimes we obtain the same time complexity or almost the same time complexity. So we try to solve this. And we noted that first, we treat the round construction as some generic Boolean function, which is not the case. And we also treat the Walsh transform as an indivisible block, which has a fixed time complexity. So for this reason, we looked at pruning algorithms for this fast Walsh transform. And we considered the case in which both the non-zero inputs and the desired outputs are in an affine subspace. And we find that the time complexity can be reduced a lot. In fact, essentially, this becomes the new constant. So if we take the non-zero values in the Walsh spectrum and place them in appropriate affine subspaces, then we can obtain a much lower cost to perform the attack. And as applications, we considered the DES and present with the 128-bit variant. So for the DES, we obtain a slightly lower data complexity, and for present, we obtain the first attack on 29 rounds of the total 31 which the cipher has. So thank you very much for listening. And again, I apologize for the lack of jokes.
Thank you. Just before we could start the music.
We are going to stop the screen sharing to play the video that David should have posted in the chat. I hope he has. He has, okay. So I invite people on Zoom to have a look at it. We're going to do the same in the room. And after that, Gaëtan will take the floor to present stuff.
You could share the video.
Yes, but are people here? Ah, you mean, would that work? Well, we'll try. We'll do some science. If it explodes, I decline all responsibility. Please, I require expertise here. So, stop share, lancer la vidéo et share la vidéo, si c'est possible. Bear with us. So, okay. People online, do you see a YouTube screen?
Yes.
Splendid. Okay, so that's what Nicolas wanted to have at the end of his talk, which was about Speedy and how he broke it. Well, at least the message is clear. So thank you, David. And now for a more classical approach to talk giving, I leave the floor to Gaëtan. We talk about new directions in cryptography. That's ambitious. Please.
Thank you. So yeah, I want to talk first about how we publish. So this is moving by itself. How do you stop it? Like this, maybe? Okay. So I want to talk first about how we publish papers, because of course that's something important for researchers. That's how we explain our results to the community, and that's also how we are evaluated sometimes. And I know that getting a paper published in TOSC is hard. We have about a 73% rejection rate, which is high. So as a chair, I apologize to everybody who had a paper rejected. I know you worked a lot on it, but we have to make decisions, and sometimes we have to reject some papers. I know the Rump Session has a much lower rejection rate of 0%, so that could be an alternative, but also some venues have very high rejection rate, like the JO4, Journal of Universal Rejection, which has a 100% rejection rate. So we're not doing that bad with TOSC, I guess. The good news is that the IACR is working on a new publication venue. I don't know how many of you have heard about this project. Can you do a show of hands in the room? Okay, so maybe half of the room. Okay, that's nice. It hasn't been advertised a lot, so if you want to know about it, you have to look at the minutes of the IACR board meeting. And so they voted a decision that the board agrees to the creation of a new journal with 7 very nice objectives. It should be open access, it should have fast decisions, it should be allowed to absorb the growing of the community, so to publish more papers. It should respect all areas of the community. It should reduce the overall reviewing load. It should allow publishing for people who don't want to travel to conferences, and it should not compete with the current system, but complement it. So of course, those are all very nice and very interesting goals. So certainly it's a very good project, right? Let's look a little bit at more details. So actually those details are very hard to find. You could hear them if you attended the Eurocrypt membership meeting or the AsiaCrypt membership meeting, but there's nothing, the meeting is not on YouTube and the slides are not online. So I have some screenshot of the slides. I will try to explain to you how I understand the proposal. I hope I'm not distorting it too much. So they first talked about the motivation, and they perceived two problems. The first one is a large reviewing load because of the conference system, because if you have a good paper, you're going to submit it to Eurocrypt, maybe it gets rejected, then you submit to crypto, it's rejected, you submit to AsiaCrypt. So every time we have to send the paper to a new set of reviewers, so that's a large reviewing load. And of course, you're also wasting time as an author because you have to submit your paper again and again. And this is in part due to the limited number of slots that we have in a conference. Crypto can only have maybe 60 or 80 talks. And if there are more than this number of good papers submitted, of course, some good papers will be rejected and maybe they will be submitted again. And I absolutely agree with this problem, and I think it would be great to solve it. Then they have this list of goals that I've already explained to you, and they say that the ideology of this journal is that if a paper contains an original contribution relevant to the field of cryptography, then it should be accepted. So if you have a result that is correct and new, then it should get into this new journal. And as I said earlier, they only want to complement the current system, not replace it, and they want to allow publications for people who don't want to travel. And they try to explain how it will interact with the Journal of Crypto and the transactions, but it's not very clear what will actually happen. So if you look at this proposal, it looks a lot like TOSC. I mean, we did this with FSE. We moved to this TOSC model, and I think we're very happy about it. We don't have a fixed number of slots anymore. The general chair just has the task of making the conference work. I mean, the editorial board accepts all papers that they think are good enough, and then the general chair must somehow solve the problem of the number of slots. And so far, this has been working nicely. And we also have revisions. So if a paper is good but not quite good enough, or there are a few things to fix, we can just ask exactly what we want to see fixed, and then we just check that this has been fixed. So it's much better than rejecting and submitting to a different conference. However, this new proposal is very different because it's not replacing something. TOSC has been replacing FSE, but this will not replace anything. It's only complementing it. And it's also aiming for to be not so selective. So because of this, I don't think they're going to actually solve the problems, because if I have a good paper, a paper I think is good, I will still submit to Eurocrypt, AsiaCrypt, Crypto, and then be rejected, and then maybe submit to TOSC or maybe TCC, or I don't know, and then at the end, maybe probably I will go to this journal. So we're not solving the problem of reviewing load, and we're not solving the problem of not enough slots, because people will still want to go to the actual conferences with a limited number of slots. So I think this is really unfortunate that there's a clear problem we want to solve. And well, in the FSE community, we have managed to solve it using a journal, but this particular journal, I don't see how it is solving the problem. However, there is a good side to it. It's that we can now explore new directions in cryptography. And that's how I go to the title of my talk. Because there are many areas in cryptography that nobody has explored. And now you can try to explore them. And as long as you can write a paper at the end that is both new and correct, you should get a publication. So that's good for you, that's good for the community, that's good for everybody. And there are lots of new directions you could look at. So you could talk about new designs. For instance, you could try to look at 11 rounds AES. That's new, right? Nobody has done it yet. I'm sure you could do it correctly. And it's interesting because it's more secure than the current world standard, and it's only 10% slower. You could also do new attacks. Maybe you can try to do cryptanalysis of a chaos-based image encryption scheme. I mean, those schemes are published. I'm sure nobody has tried to break them. It's probably not very hard. So you could have a paper that is both new and correct, but not interesting. But apparently, this doesn't matter. You could also do new implementations. Maybe you can implement Ketchak on a Turing machine. I'm sure nobody has done it yet. Maybe you can design a new scheme based on Rubik's Cube, and you can apply it to encrypt a Hungarian phrasebook. You could do a quantum collision attack against MD4. I'm sure this hasn't been done yet, so it can be new and correct. Maybe you can look at SHA-256. It's a very important function. Lots of people are computing SHA-256, so you could do a new implementation, maybe a constant time implementation for Bitcoin mining. I'm sure that's not been done yet. You could build a new PRNG that passes NIST randomness test. That's not very hard. You could have something that is actually correct in the sense that it passes the test. And maybe you could do neural network cryptanalysis of the Caesar cipher. Thank you.
Now for the last talk, we will have the Queen of the Amazons herself.
Thanks. So I would like to tell you a few words on behalf of the FSE steering committee. So, but because we are in Greece, of course, I would like to first focus on some very important characters from the Greek mythology. I guess all of you know this guy, Sisyphus, of course. Sisyphus, he was punished by Zeus, and he's forced, as you know, to roll a big boulder up to a hill. And each time this boulder reaches the top of the hill, then it rolls down, and Sisyphus has to do this again and again for eternity. Also, some very interesting characters from the Greek mythology are these Danaids. They have been condemned to spend eternity pouring water into a jar, which has a big hole. I think they are very interesting characters for us because they might be seen as the founders of the chess community, because they showed for the first time that leakage is definitely something very important, which should be taken into account. And so we have these nice characters from the mythology, these Danaids and Sisyphus also, but now we also have Christina's punishment. It seems that she has been condemned to organize FSE for eternity. She did it already 3 times, in March 2020, in November 2020, right now. And because I guess that all of us, we appreciate the very nice organization, everything is perfect here as a venue, the food and so on, I think maybe we could think about having FSE here in Greece, maybe in the coming years, another or several other times. So thank you, Christina. Maybe we can all join me to thank Christina. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so thank you. I want to dedicate this to the 12 Greek gods. If I cite them all, do I get a prize?
You're the one deciding.
Okay, so we will get one.
So also we need to thank someone who we cannot see, but well, this is exactly as Nyx, you know, the goddess of the night. Because as for all our virtual conferences, we have Kevin McCurley, who cares about everything, all technical aspects for online attendance. But what you maybe what you don't know is that Kevin is in the US, so that's the middle of the night for him. So let's join me to thank Kevin. Kevin, thanks very much. I don't know if he's still online. Okay, and also I would like to say a few words on FSE 2023. As you heard, FSE 2023 will be in Beijing in China, and I would like to thank our general chair, Bing Zhang and Mei-King Wang, because I told you about Christina's punishments, but they will organize FSE in China at least twice, because FSE 2023 was initially scheduled for 2022, so which means that it will be the second time next year, but I hope they will organize it exactly twice, and not more than twice, and so that we will enjoy all the conference in China next year. And so what's about 2024? Well, 2024, there's no plan, so which means that we are looking for volunteers. So if you would like to organize FSE 2024, please contact me or any member from the steering committee. Well, after this experience of very long punishment, maybe we will prefer someone who lives in a country where you have more tradition of very quick tournaments, but it's better for organizing a conference, I think. Okay, so now I want also to thank our program chair, Gaëtan, Itai, and Bart. And when preparing this talk, I was wondering whether we can compare them to Minos, Sarped, and Radamanthus. I don't know what you think about it, if you think that they look like those three guys. Well, who knows who are these three guys, except Christina, but Christina doesn't count. Okay, these are the three judges in the underworld, and they're very famous because they show inflexible judgments. Or maybe another comparison could be with Brontes, Teropes, and Arges. And here, I don't know if you can see from the picture what they are doing, but well, these are the three Cyclops, and we can see that they are working very hard on the paper assignment with Hotcraft here. But I think at the end that the best comparison is with Cloto, Lachesis, and Atropos, and then maybe you know these three women. It's very clear that these are the three fates, and their role is to ensure that every submission lives out its destiny. So as you can see, the first one is the one for acceptance. The one in the middle recommends major revision, and the last one, of course, is in charge of rejection. Okay, so please, let's thank our three program chairs because they prepare us this very nice program. And so you don't have the virtual plaque this year. Tie. Do you want to say something or no? Okay, now comes the tragic part of the talk. So, you know, in a Greek tragedy, usually it starts with people saying that they are not happy with something, people complaining, and at the end, someone dies. So I hope we will just stay at the beginning. So you got the funny part of this just before with Gaëtan. Gaëtan explained this proposal for creating a new journal, a proposal made by the board of ISCR. And so we discussed within the FSE steering committee, and we arrived to the conclusion that we think that it's not a good idea for our community. And so, because within the steering committee, we all agree on that, what we propose is to send a statement to the board, to the ISCR board, to explain why we think that it's not a good idea and to make some proposal to the board. And so, of course, it's only at the moment the opinion of the steering committee. And so I would like to show you as a proposal we made for this statement. And then I will ask you whether you agree or not that we send this statement. And then we could say if you agree that this statement comes from the attendance of the conference. So it's probably written, it's probably very small. I'm sorry, I cannot do it better. But well, let me first explain the statement, and then we can have a discussion, and you can give your opinion on that. So as Gaëtan explained, at last Eurocrypt, a proposal for a new journal was presented. And basically, it has been explained that it has two different aims. The first one is to publish papers that are correct, but not interesting enough to be accepted to the current venues. And the second aim was also to accept papers in the scope of real-world encryption, real-world crypto, because at the moment it seems that for people publishing in this area, it's quite difficult to have publication. And so what happens is that for FSE, but also for the chess community, it happens that we are in a different situation from the PKC or TCC community, because what we did is that now 6 years ago, we decided to launch a journal and to move to this hybrid conference journal model. So we now have the transaction on symmetric cryptology, and we are, as a steering committee, at least we are quite happy with that, because we think that the quality of the papers substantially improved when moving from the conference model to this journal model. And also more papers are accepted than before. And we changed the format of the conference, because at the beginning, FSE was only 2 days and a half or 3 days. And you can see that now we have the whole week or almost the whole week. And so because we are very happy with our situation and this model, we don't see for our communities a need for a new journal, because we already have one. And I think that if we believe, but we can discuss this at some point, if we believe that more papers needs to be published, then we can publish them in TOSC, because if this is a journal, so we have no constraints about the number of papers we can publish, and we can adapt the format of the conference accordingly. And so we think it's important, because we would like to avoid an increase in the review load for the community. And if we have 2 different journals with papers on symmetric crypto, of course, this will increase the review load. And maybe more importantly, we think that having this second journal would be something very confusing, because we will have two journal published by, two ISR journals. These 2 journals will be of very different quality, but they will cover the area of symmetric crypto, and they would look very similar, because they will have a title like ISR or something. And so it would be very confusing, especially for people outside from the community. So it seems that for us, for instance, it would be very difficult to explain this to someone outside in a hiring jury or something, that how these 2 journals are related or not. And also this will be in addition to the Journal of Cryptology that we already have. And so because of that, we would like to ask the ISR Board of Directors to limit the innovation in publications in this new journal to areas which are not covered by FSE and probably by chess, which follows the same model as the one we have here. And more generally, we believe that things are really changing right now concerning the behavior of people, of researchers, for conferences and journals and everything related to our publication system. What I mean is that with the pandemic, we had to experience these virtual conferences, hybrid conferences as we have today. And also there's some pressure. People want, or some people don't want to travel anymore, or at least not 10 times a year or something like this. So I think we need a discussion and an in-depth discussion about this, so about everything, how many conferences we want, what is the role of our 3 flagships conferences, the role of the area conferences, and journals in between. So this is something much more general than adding just a new journal and that's it. So probably we need to think about that with the whole crypto community. And this was our message from the steering committee. We would like to have a more general discussion with all ISR members about it. So this is basically the statement. So I don't know if you have any feedback or any comment, or if someone thinks that it's a very bad idea to send this statement. So maybe it's better if you come here. Yeah. So that. For the people online. Yeah. If I need to repeat everything, it's.
So if you plan to say something,
yes.
already get through.
Just about the statement, all what you said about the review load of, and also Gaetan said about the review load of Eurocrypt, crypto, and other crypts doesn't appear in the statement here. So or maybe I misunderstood something. I mean, this would avoid an increase in review load, but it seems not related to abandon the over conferences. I mean, it's just it's just a statement for adding a new journal, but it doesn't express that you want, or we would like to say something about changing the over big conferences, which is one, I mean, if I heard correctly.
Yeah, this is the last sentence say that we would like a more general discussion. This is what we mean.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just it seems a bit light. I mean, it's lighter than what you said.
No, what I said is that I think that we need to discuss about it, because I'm not sure that everybody agrees, and it will probably take some time to reach a consensus on that point. I don't know, but well, this is what I hear as feedback, for instance, at last Eurocrypt. That some people say, I don't want to travel anymore. And some other people say, no, it's much better to have an in-person conference. So I think we need a discussion on that. So this is why this last sentence is, we need a discussion. I don't know what the output of this discussion will be, but at least we need a discussion.
If I understand correctly, the point of this statement is not to say we should do this, it's to say, we really shouldn't do that. Like there is this well-specified thing and we disagree with it. What to replace it with, that's another question to be discussed another time. Do I understand correctly? I understand correctly. Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Can you trigger the vote, or do you need to ask?
Is there someone online who would like to say something about this, or who would disagree that we send this statement? Where can you see that?
In the chat.
In the Zolib chat, or? Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, wait, yeah, I see. Okay, so is there any opinion, or does it mean that everyone agrees? Well, maybe we can just have a vote. I won't count exactly, but just to see how it looks like. Let's start with Kevin.
I just wanted to say I'm actually on the committee for the new journal. Yeah. And one of the things I had proposed in the committee is that we expand the scope of the committee to look at a more in-depth discussion about the publishing of IACR, because it feels very fragmented right now. We have TOSC and TCHES, we have the Journal of Cryptology, we have all the conferences, and the Springer proceedings, we have ePrint, and it seems like a mishmash of different systems, and it would be nice to reduce the number of systems instead of increase the number of systems. But that was kind of rejected by the committee as too grand a scope.
Okay, so, well, we will try. If we all agree with the statement, we will try again to have a broader scope for this discussion. Let me look at the chat. So just to check, is there someone in the room who does not agree that we send this statement to the board? please raise your hand. So who agrees that we'll send this statement? Okay, thanks. So you cannot see, but nobody was against it in the room, and I didn't count, but I see most hands for people who agrees. Let me do that with online people. Can I? I think I can see if you raise your hand. I think there's a feature in Zoom where you can raise your hand. Yes.
Yes, you have it.
Which one? What do you want?
Là.
Yeah.
Ils peuvent mettre ça et tu peux savoir, ils peuvent mettre aussi du nom du croix s'ils sont désagréés.
Okay.
Tu peux demander aussi l'abstention. Il faut juste que tu demandes le
Yes.
truc.
No. Well, but yeah, I don't know if everyone can use the pool. I remember that when we are using it works. Okay.
I think it doesn't work if you're on a web browser.
Yes. This. Well, at least it gives some. Okay, good.
Otherwise, I should just write disagree in the chat.
So let's just wait for a few minutes. Okay, at the moment, I see 3 people who disagree with the proposal and 12 who agree and 2 without any opinion on that. Okay, and it seems that it stopped. So, well, I think we can conclude from this discussion, this quick discussion, that the majority agrees that the steering committee sends this statement to the board, and then we will see what will happen. And and I hope we will have a discussion at Eurocrypt, which will be the next conference where we'll be here on this new journal, and hopefully a more general discussion on the publication system. So thanks to all of you. Thank you.
Policy of the wise ones to step forward, please.
We have to do that.
But yeah, no lunch yet. So no pressure on them, but they need to reach a decision. Who is awarded these amazing jobs?
Okay, we somehow randomly looked at the decisions, but those are educated guesses. Well, we kind of we think one of them stood out as being funniest, so I think that's the one of Jan Rotella, the Yotta alpha labors of the cryptanalysis. You have to go to them to the prize, because we didn't do anything. We just had to decide.
Thanks.
Yeah, I can continue. Okay, so yeah, actually Jan also tried to do the most methodological references, but you can only get one prize. So I'm sorry, you can sit down. The second most methodological references goes to Anne Canto. So for yeah. Okay, for the most tragic performances, I'm sorry, I'm not giving the right names of the prizes. Okay, yes. So the most tragic performance, yeah, it's for 2 reasons. First of them, because it failed in the beginning, and the second one, because they actually did the effort to make a video. So it's for differential attacks on Speedy. Yeah, actually, it's a bit biased because Christina is also on there. But please come forward.
Are YouTube videos the modern equivalent of Greek tragedies then?
Yes, I think so.
Makes sense.
And that's it, I think.
Thanks everyone, every speaker, and also the committee for awarding the prize.
Yep. So that would be the end of the Rump session, also for our friends online.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.